Hey guys, Sam here, and in today's video I want to break down something for you guys that I've been asked about and also something that I've been considering myself. Is the Red Komodo actually worth the $6,000 price tag? Now, when Red puts a price tag on one of their cameras, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because rarely does Red give you an honest price on their cameras, because what they want you to see is the price of the camera body or brain, and what you don't see is that you also need to buy a few things just to get the camera up and running. So if you're a returning Red user, you may have one or two things that you need depending on how old your current Red camera is. However, the media, power options, and monitor situation are all a little different than any of the previous Red cameras. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything that you need to get your Red Komodo up and running, and just all the basics that you're going to have to invest in if you want to actually have a useful camera at your disposal. And hopefully that'll give you a better idea of the actual price of this camera, including all the accessories that you need to get it up and running. So in an effort to expand their range to a more consumer, prosumer market, Red has now allowed the use of non-proprietary media in the Komodo. So this means that approved CFast 2.0 cards will be able to record on the Red Komodo, and this might save you a few bucks in getting started if you already have some CFast cards lying around that are actually approved media. And I'll also try to link some of the cards in the description that I like myself. So after you've got your media taken care of, you're going to need to figure out your power options. The camera natively accepts dual Canon BP9 series batteries, which are hot swappable for continuous shooting, and the runtime on these batteries is pretty good considering they aren't super large and don't add that much weight to the camera. So with two BP955 batteries, you can get about 3 hours of runtime, and the size of this battery I'd say is ideal on your camera. It's not going to add too much weight, and it's also not going to get in the way of what you need to be doing in the back of your camera. I'll put a link to where you can buy them in the description. So that's one of your power options, and that's the one that Red intended, because those are the types of batteries that are made to run on the Komodo natively. So you could also go the route of purchasing a D-tap to Komodo power cable, which is a very affordable option, especially if you already have V-mount batteries with a D-tap output on them. However, you're going to need to figure out a solution of where to mount your V-mount battery when you're shooting, because just buying a power cable isn't going to give you any mounting options. So you could either mount your V-mount battery to a tripod or a gimbal, or if you're shooting handheld, you're going to need to figure out a way to rig it onto the camera. However, you're going to have limited space because the camera is very small. Your real estate is going to get taken up quick by any other accessories you might have. So this is definitely a very cheap option. You can get this cable for around $40, but it might cause you some issues while you're shooting if you don't have the proper mounting options. So your other power option is going to be a V-mount battery plate, which is made specifically for the Komodo, and these are mostly third-party plates. You're not really going to find one from Red as far as I know, and this is the option that I have mainly used in the past. I like this option because the weight of the V-mount battery actually balances out the weight of the lens that you have on front, as well as any matte boxes, filters, follow focuses, or any other accessories that you might have on the front of the camera, which brings the center of gravity back towards the middle of the camera, and that's going to make everything easier for balancing on gimbals and also keeping it nicely centered on your tripod or over your shoulder when you're shooting handheld. One of my favorite solutions is the wooden camera option, because it slides right into the battery slot and plugs directly into the camera, while also giving you the flexibility to adjust where the plate sits on the back of the camera. It's really sleek and it takes up minimal room on the back of the body, so you barely notice it's there. Now, there are some other options, of course, like the Core SWX V-mount battery plate, which mounts in a similar way but lacks the adjustability that the wooden camera model offers, but it also costs less than half the price. I also like the Tilta V-mount battery plate, which gives you a low profile as well as several power output options, and it's also the cheapest of the three power solutions at $140. The downside of this model is that the V-mount battery has to be mounted sideways on the camera, which can be a bit awkward depending on the size of your battery, and I'll provide links in the description to all these power solutions so you guys can check them out for yourselves and decide which one is best for you. So now that you have your power options figured out, the third thing that you're going to need to figure out is your monitor solution. Red has a free app that you can download on pretty much any device and wirelessly monitor your camera, change your settings, and also view a live image feed. This works pretty well for the most part, and if you have an iPad or a decent sized tablet, you can get away with this system. However, I personally wouldn't recommend it. If for some reason the wireless monitoring is lagging or it's not working properly, then you have no backup unless you're going to use the microscopic monitor on the camera. And also, a problem that I have with the app is that it doesn't seem to transmit the focus peaking, nor could I find a focus peaking feature in the app menus. So if I just missed it, let me know in the comments, but I couldn't seem to find any sort of solution to this problem. So you're not going to have access to some of the tools that you would typically like to see on a monitoring system. And that being said, I ended up using this system for my film Gemini, and we were able to get through it. However, it wasn't ideal. and we ran into some problems. But if you want this camera for as cheap as possible, you can function without the external monitor if you have another device that can connect to the Komodo's Wi-Fi. But I would personally recommend purchasing a monitor if you can afford it, which I'm going to get into now. So if you do want to go the route of purchasing a monitor, what you do have to keep in mind with the Komodo is that unlike most other Red cameras and almost any other camera in this price range, it doesn't have an HDMI output. It's kind of a disappointing aspect of the camera for me because I don't use any SDI monitoring systems and I only have an HDMI wireless monitoring system. That doesn't work with the Komodo, unfortunately. But fortunately, there is a good solution for monitoring this camera, and it's called the Cine C7S, which I'm actually using to film this video. It's also known as the FeelWorld LUT 7S. It's the same exact monitor, it's just branded differently. So this is actually a really nice monitor, and it's extremely bright. It comes in at about 2200 nits, so you're never going to have trouble seeing the screen even in broad daylight, which is very nice. The brightness is adjustable, and it has most of the features you'd expect to see from a monitor, like focus peaking, histogram, and zebras and all that. But the main thing about this monitor is that it has both SDI and HDMI input and output. So what this means is that if you have a wireless monitoring system, you're able to feed the Komodo's SDI picture into your monitor and out through the SDI feed as well to your wireless monitoring system for viewing elsewhere. So it's a loop system, and you can actually use multiple monitors at one time, which is really nice. Now, unfortunately for me, my Paralinx monitoring system is HDMI, so I don't believe you can input SDI picture and output HDMI picture from the monitor because they're two different systems, but I haven't actually tested it, so if any of you guys know for sure, go ahead and leave a comment just so that it's cleared up for everybody else. So for the price of $370, you're not going to find anything else with the capabilities of this monitor, not to mention the fact that it has both SDI and HDMI inputs and outputs, essentially making it one of the only monitors in this price range that's compatible with the Red Komodo, especially one this size because it's a 7-inch monitor. So it's going to be a great solution for Komodo users, and it's going to keep the cost of the Komodo overall pretty low. And the last thing I want to cover now is the speed booster that's available for this camera. So there's a 0.71x RF to EF speed booster from Canon. So the speed booster essentially widens your field of view to full frame and gives you an extra stop of light. The cost is a bit of a downside. I think it's like $600, although that isn't that expensive for the benefits of essentially full frame shooting, especially with a global shutter at 6K resolution. So there you have it. Now that all that is said and done, we've gone through all the solutions that you need just to get this camera up and running in a functional state, plus maybe a little extra if you want to go for that speed booster. So now we can kind of actually answer the question, what does this camera really cost? If you want to go the cheapest route and you already own the V-mount batteries, you buy the Komodo D-Tap power cable and use the wireless monitoring app, and you buy one 512 gigabyte CFast card, the Komodo is going to come in at around $6,600. So you're going to spend like an extra $600 on accessories for it. That's really not too bad considering how much Red has charged for their camera accessories in the past. However, if you go the route I would recommend and buy yourself a V-mount battery plate, the Cine monitor, and even just buying one of the 512 gigabyte CFast cards, you're going to be coming in at around $7,000. So realistically, you could be looking at around $7,500 to $8,000 if you're going to buy more media, more batteries, and all that stuff. So the ultimate question, is the Red Komodo worth the price? If you're looking to build an ecosystem around this camera and you want the image quality of a Red camera with the global shutter, a decent dynamic range. Now, Red has advertised 16 plus stops of dynamic range. However, other tests have shown more like 12 or so usable stops, and there seems to be some controversy over it. But anyway, it doesn't seem to have anything special in terms of frame rates, though the body is incredibly small and light, so it certainly has its ups and downs. But if you want the Red look, then the camera can definitely be worth it. It does produce beautiful images, and you're getting a global shutter with a lot of dynamic range. And if you look at the V-mount batteries, media, and monitor as an investment that you're going to be able to use with future cameras and future pieces of gear, the price really isn't that bad, all things considered. So overall, I would say that if you're looking to get into shooting with Red cameras, the Komodo is probably going to give you the best bang for your buck. Now, I've linked all the products I talked about in this video in the description, so if you guys are looking to build out your Komodo starter kit, be sure to to use those links to purchase your stuff, as I'll get a kickback, which helps me to make better videos for you guys down the road. I'd really appreciate your support in that way, and I'd love to hear your guys' own opinions about the Komodo in the comments. So is the Komodo worth the price? Are there better accessories that I didn't cover in this video? If you guys have any ideas or anything like that, go ahead and throw them in the comments. I love to hear the discussion, and I love to see you guys discussing things as well. So that's about it for this video, and as always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a good one.